Welcome to our deep dive into Robert de Ropp's The Master Game.
Oh, this is going to be good.
You guys have sent in some seriously intriguing excerpts from this book,
Yeah.
and it really dives deep into levels of consciousness
Hmm.
and how we can, reach those higher levels of awareness.
Yeah.
It's all about waking up,
Right.
and not just from sleep,
Yeah.
but from what de Ropp calls
Oh.
waking sleep.
Oh, I love that concept.
So we're going to explore how to escape this state
Right.
and step into playing life's master game.
It's fascinating, how de Ropp blends these Eastern spiritual traditions with Western psychology.
Yeah.
He's created this guide to understanding not only what consciousness is,
Right.
but how we can actively shape it.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
He starts by talking about these different games people play,
Uh-huh.
which are basically life pursuits driven by specific aims.
Yeah.
But he doesn't sugarcoat it.
No.
He calls out what he considers
He does
the
not.
low games.
Right. And these are like hog in the trough.
Okay.
All about materialism.
Yeah.
Chasing more stuff.
Uh-huh.
Cock on dunghill.
Okay.
Focused on ego.
Mm-hmm.
Needing to be superior.
Yeah.
And then there's the chilling Moloch game,
Oh, wow.
which represents war and destruction.
These games sound a bit bleak.
They do.
Is he saying we should just avoid them altogether?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
The point is that they become problematic when they're the only games we're playing.
I see.
Right. Consuming our lives without leading to genuine fulfillment.
Okay.
We need to recognize if these aims are truly serving us,
Yeah.
or if they're keeping us stuck in that waking sleep.
Right.
That's the key.
He contrasts these low games
He
with
did.
the high games.
He does.
Art, science, and religion.
Yes.
Are these the antidote then?
In their ideal forms, yes.
Okay.
Art as the expression of beauty and creativity,
Mm-hmm.
science as the pursuit of knowledge and understanding, and religion as the search for meaning and connection.
Okay. Let's
But
yeah.
de Ropp cautions
Right.
that even these
Uh-huh.
can become distorted,
Okay.
losing their true essence
Yeah.
and becoming just another game.
So we could be striving for something high,
Yes.
like success in our field,
Exactly.
but still be missing the point
You got it.
if it's not aligned with our deeper purpose.
Exactly.
Got it.
It all circles back to awareness.
Okay.
The master game
Yeah.
then becomes the ultimate pursuit,
Okay.
the one played by mystics
Uh-huh.
and those seeking genuine awakening.
Right.
It's about consciously choosing the games we play
Yeah.
and understanding the aims driving our choices.
Okay.
So that's really the key.
This is where he introduces the metaphor of a house with 5 rooms,
Yes.
each representing a different state of consciousness.
Uh-huh.
I love a good metaphor.
Oh, me too.
It's so helpful.
Absolutely.
It's drawn from the myth of the Mad King,
Yes.
this ancient idea that within each of us,
Lies this vast palace.
this potential.
Yeah. But the king has locked himself in a tiny room,
He has.
forgetting the treasures within.
Oh, it's a beautiful image.
Right.
I love that.
So the 5 rooms represent the potential within each of us.
Yes.
The first room is dreamless sleep,
Uh-huh.
the most basic state,
The most basic.
with no self-awareness.
Right. Just pure being,
Yeah.
in a way.
Okay, then comes the room of dreams,
Yeah.
full of symbols and creativity,
So much symbolism.
but often nonsensical and
Yes.
fleeting.
They are.
And room 3
Okay.
is where most of us spend our lives,
Oh, yeah.
waking sleep,
Most of us.
where we mistake our thoughts and feelings for who we truly are.
Oh, that's so true.
It feels like that light bulb moment
Yes.
where you suddenly see your own autopilot
You see it.
and you're like, whoa, I've just been going through the motions.
That's the beginning of waking up.
That's it.
Yeah.
Room 4 represents self-remembering. Yeah.
Those glimpses of objectivity and freedom from the constant chatter of the mind.
That's a good one.
This is where we can start to choose our actions more consciously. Right?
That's the key.
And finally, room 5,
The Holy Grail.
the elusive samadhi.
Yeah.
It sounds almost unattainable.
De Ropp describes it as a state beyond description,
Okay.
achieved through dedicated practice.
Wow.
But it's crucial to remember that all these rooms exist within us.
They do.
The potential is there.
It is.
We just need to unlock those doors.
So the big question becomes, how do we actually start playing this master game?
Good question.
How do we move from waking sleep
Right.
to a higher state of awareness?
That is the question.
One common misconception de Ropp addresses
Uh-huh.
is that drugs offer a shortcut to higher consciousness.
Ah.
He even draws on his own experiences with hashish.
He does.
Intriguing.
It is.
What did he discover?
He vividly describes the cyclic nature of the hashish experience. with heightened senses and fleeting insights.
Interesting.
But ultimately,
Yeah.
he cautions against it,
Okay.
comparing it to spiritual burglary.
Wow.
You might glimpse the treasure,
Right.
but you haven't earned it
Okay.
or learned how to stay there.
So it's a forced entry
It is,
and possibly harmful
potentially,
if you haven't done the inner work to prepare.
precisely.
Got it.
True growth comes from consistent effort and understanding,
Okay.
not a quick fix.
So if drugs aren't the answer,
Right.
where do we even begin this inner work?
That's the question.
De Ropp talks about silencing what he calls the noise machine in our heads.
Yes.
That incessant internal chatter
Uh-huh.
that prevents true awareness, quieting the mind in our hyper-connected world.
It's a challenge.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
What are some practical techniques?
Well, it starts with simply becoming aware of the noise.
Okay. Yeah.
Noticing it.
Right.
Then consciously choose which impressions we let in, directing our attention rather than letting it be pulled in every direction.
That takes discipline.
It does.
I imagine it's like training a muscle,
It is.
building up that mental focus over time.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's about making conscious choices about what we feed our mind,
Yeah.
what we expose ourselves to.
So it's not about emptying the mind completely,
No.
but rather choosing what fills it.
Exactly.
Right.
We're training our attention,
Okay.
focusing it on something beyond the usual mental noise.
Yeah.
This is a crucial first step in playing the master game.
Okay. We've started to quiet the mind
We have.
and become more aware.
Yes.
Now, how do we understand ourselves better within this game?
Great question.
De Ropp introduces the concept of a theater of selves.
Oh, I love this one.
We tend to think of ourselves as a single I,
We do.
but he argues there's not one,
Right.
but a multitude of selves,
A whole cast of characters.
each with its own will and aim, playing out on the stage of our personality. Wait, so there are multiple Mays running around in my head.
Kind of.
That sounds a bit chaotic.
It can be.
Okay.
But understanding this dynamic
Okay.
is key to playing the master game consciously.
All right.
De Ropp describes 5 main wills,
Okay.
or driving forces. Pleasure, death,
Okay.
which represents inertia.
All right.
Power, meaning
Yeah.
and self-transcendence.
Okay, break those down for me.
Okay.
Pleasure seems pretty straightforward.
It does.
The desire for gratification.
Exactly.
But death,
yeah,
that sounds a little ominous.
it does.
Is he talking about a literal death wish?
Not quite.
Okay.
It represents that urge towards inertia
Okay.
to conserve energy and avoid effort.
Right.
It's a natural counterbalance
Okay.
to the will for pleasure.
So it's about that tension between seeking out new experiences
Yes,
and wanting to stay comfortable and safe.
exactly.
Yeah.
We all feel that.
Then there's power.
Yep.
The drive to dominate and control,
That's a big one.
meaning the search for purpose and significance.
Uh-huh.
And finally, self-transcendence,
The highest will.
which is the highest will.
The urge to move beyond the limitations of the ego,
Wow.
that's the goal.
So it's like having this whole cast of characters within us,
It is.
each vying for the spotlight.
It's a great way to visualize it.
And the key is to become aware of which self is in the spotlight
Yes.
at any given moment,
Exactly.
what its aim is, and whether it's aligned with our true purpose. So it's not about eliminating these different selves,
Right.
but rather understanding their roles
Understanding their roles.
and choosing which ones we want to empower,
choosing wisely.
like directing our own inner play.
Precisely.
This theater of selves definitely provides a framework for understanding our inner world.
It does.
But De Ropp also talks about the concept of type,
Yeah.
which seems to relate to our physical bodies.
Our physical form.
How does that fit in?
He draws on Sheldon's work
Okay.
on body types and temperaments.
Okay.
Sheldon classified people into 3 categories.
Okay.
Endomorphs,
Okay.
who tend to be softer and rounder.
Uh-huh.
Mesomorphs,
Okay.
who are more muscular and athletic.
Right.
And ectomorphs,
Okay.
the lean and wiry types.
So he's saying our physical form is linked to our personality.
There's a connection.
Oh, is that limiting?
De Ropp actually uses this to highlight the concept of self-duty.
Okay.
He ties it to essence,
Uh-huh.
our innate nature.
Right.
He's not endorsing a rigid social hierarchy,
Okay.
but rather saying that understanding our type, our strengths and weaknesses,
Okay.
can help us find the role
Mm-hmm.
that best aligns with who we are at our core.
So instead of trying to be someone we're not,
Right.
we can lean into our natural inclinations and
Yes.
play to our strengths.
Play to your strengths.
This brings up a question.
Okay.
How much of our personality is fixed,
Uh-huh.
and how much can we change?
That's where de Ropp differentiates between type,
Okay.
which is immutable,
Okay.
and persona,
Right.
the masks we wear in the world.
Right.
These masks are molded both by our essence and our environment.
So it's like we're all playing different roles
Exactly.
depending on the situation.
All the time.
But he contrasts persona with the false ego.
Yes.
What's the difference?
The persona,
Yeah.
when healthy,
Okay.
helps us navigate social interactions
Uh-huh.
and fulfill roles in society.
Right.
But the false ego
Right.
is a distorted version,
Okay.
an inflated, attention-craving self
Uh-huh.
that hinders growth.
Yeah.
Like the persona becomes a prison.
So it's a mask that we start believing is the real us.
It happens.
It makes sense that this would be a major obstacle in the master game.
Absolutely.
How do we start to unravel this?
Good question.
To separate the authentic self
Yeah.
from the masks and ego.
De Ropp offers several strategies.
Okay.
He talks about impartial self-observation,
Okay.
cultivating a detached awareness
Yeah.
of our thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
emotions,
Right. Yeah.
and behaviors,
Yeah.
seeing ourselves without judgment.
That sounds challenging.
It can be.
Almost like watching yourself from outside your own body.
It is.
It is.
But with practice,
Yeah.
it becomes easier to see those patterns
Right. Yeah.
and identify the false ego at work.
Yeah.
He also mentions inner theater,
Okay.
where we become aware of the different roles we play
Uh-huh.
in our own minds,
Right.
the internal dialogues
Mhm.
that shape our experience.
And what about outer theater?
Outer theater.
Does that involve actual acting?
Not quite,
Okay.
though it's a creative way to think about it.
Right.
De Ropp suggests using interactions in the world
Yeah.
as a stage to experiment with different roles,
Okay.
observing how others react to us.
So it's about using the world as a mirror
It is.
to see ourselves more clearly. And through this process of self-observation, we can start to dismantle the false ego and reclaim our authentic selves.
That's the goal.
All of this sounds like a lot of mental work.
It is inner work.
But de Ropp also talks about educating our centers.
Yes, he does.
What does that even mean?
He's not just talking about intellectual understanding.
Okay.
He identifies 4 main centers:
Okay.
instinctive, moving,
Mhm.
emotional,
Right.
and intellectual,
Okay.
and emphasizes that we need to educate each one
Right.
to bring them into harmony
Yeah.
and under the control of the conscious will.
So it's a holistic approach to development,
It is.
addressing all aspects of our being.
That's right.
Let's start with the instinctive center.
Okay.
What does educating that involve?
It's about understanding our basic biological drives,
Okay.
our energy fluctuations,
Yeah.
and those fight or flight reactions
Right.
that
right.
can hijack our behavior.
Yeah, totally.
It's about managing stress
Okay.
and working with our biological rhythms rather than against them.
So it's like learning to recognize those primal instincts and
Yes.
impulses
Those primal urges.
and not letting them automatically control us.
Right.
Right.
We have a choice.
And then we have the moving center,
The moving center, yes.
which is about cultivating awareness through movement.
Through movement.
So not just exercising,
Right.
but being mindful
That's the key.
of how we move,
Yes.
even during simple tasks.
Even simple tasks.
That's a fascinating way to think about it.
It is, isn't it?
Okay, so we've got the instinctive and moving centers.
We do.
What about the emotional center?
This
That one feels particularly challenging.
is a big one.
De Ropp dives deep into this,
He does.
emphasizing the importance of understanding and managing our emotions.
Understanding and managing.
He talks about the role of conscience,
Uh-huh.
the pitfalls of suppressing emotions,
Yeah.
and the limitations of trying to force positive ones.
Mhm.
So it's not about becoming emotionless robots,
Oh.
but rather becoming more aware of our emotional landscape.
More aware.
He talks about negative emotions,
does.
but his point is to differentiate between expressing them
yes.
and letting them control us.
right.
It's about learning to observe emotion
Observe.
without identifying with them completely. So instead of reacting impulsively,
Yes.
we create space between the feeling
create space.
and our response.
Exactly.
That sounds like a powerful tool for navigating challenging situations.
It is a powerful tool.
It's about recognizing that our emotions are valuable data,
Data.
but they don't have to dictate our actions.
Exactly.
This leads us to the final center,
The intellectual center.
the intellectual one.
Yes.
Isn't that the one most people already focus on
Yeah, I think
when it comes to personal development?
it's a common one.
While crucial,
Uh-huh.
De Ropp cautions against over-relying on word-based thinking.
Overthinking.
And mistaking intellectual understanding for genuine wisdom.
Yeah.
So it's not just about accumulating knowledge, but about developing a different way of thinking.
Exactly.
He encourages moving beyond purely intellectual understanding.
Yes.
And into a more intuitive way of seeing the world.
More intuitive.
He introduces concepts like triads and octaves to illustrate this.
Triads and octaves.
Those sound a bit complex.
They can be.
Can you break them down for our listeners?
Sure.
He uses triads to describe the interplay of forces in any action or process. There's always an active force, a passive force, and a reconciling force.
Okay.
Think about a skilled craftsperson who effortlessly create something beautiful.
Yeah.
They're not just applying brute force, but understanding the natural flow of energy.
The flow.
So it's about recognizing the subtle interplay of forces and aligning our actions accordingly.
That's right.
What about octaves?
Octaves.
De Ropp points out that development happens in cycles.
It does.
There are periods of progress, plateaus, even setbacks.
Setbacks.
Think about a project you're working on.
Okay, yeah.
There are moments of flow. Moments of frustration. And knowing how to navigate those shifts is key.
It's key.
So octaves are about recognizing those natural rhythms of growth. And understanding that setbacks are a natural part of the process.
A natural part.
Okay, so we've explored these 4 centers.
We have.
And it sounds like educating them is about bringing all aspects of ourselves, our instincts,
our physical, our emotions, and our intellect
into a state of greater balance.
And awareness.
But
can we do this alone?
That's a good question.
That's where De Ropp gets into the importance of community. He criticizes the idea of withdrawing from the world to achieve enlightenment, arguing that it's not the ideal path.
For most people today. So we can't just meditate our way to higher consciousness in isolation.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
While solitude and introspection are important, De Ropp advocates for the idea of a creative community, a supportive environment, where individuals can pursue both inner and outer growth.
That sounds like a more balanced approach.
It is more balanced.
Where we can learn and grow alongside others who share similar aspirations.
People on the same path. It's really helpful.
It's almost like weaving a tapestry of shared experience.
I love that.
Where everyone's unique thread contributes to a larger, more beautiful whole.
Beautiful.
What a beautiful image.
What a beautiful image.
And within this weaving, De Ropp doesn't shy away from addressing death.
He does not.
A topic most people try to avoid.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
The big one.
And he offers some pretty scathing critiques.
He does.
Of how we handle death in modern society.
Oh, yeah.
Calling it a mix of sentimentality.
Sentimentality.
Bad art.
Bad art.
And fear-mongering.
Fear-mongering. It's all there.
He doesn't hold back.
He doesn't.
He criticizes the cult of the casket.
Yes.
Those elaborate rituals.
Nice.
The focus on prolonging life at all costs. Even when it means suffering.
At all costs.
It's almost like we're trying to deny the reality of death.
I think we are.
To push it out of our awareness.
Out of sight, out of mind.
As much as possible.
Yeah.
He contrasts that with the idea of intentional dying.
Intentional dying.
Which sounds much more conscious.
It does.
And courageous.
It does.
What does intentional dying look like?
It's about preparing for death.
Okay.
Not in a morbid way.
Right.
But in a way that allows us to face it.
Okay.
With awareness, dignity, and maybe even a sense of peace.
So it's like bringing that same mindfulness, self-remembering into the very process of dying.
Yes.
Not easy.
Not easy at all.
It requires a lot of inner work.
A lot of inner work.
He suggests that it's only possible through cultivating that capacity for one-pointedness.
One-pointedness.
For detachment from the physical body.
Detachment.
It's almost like training for a marathon.
It is like training.
But for the soul.
For the soul.
So the master game isn't just about living a more meaningful life.
No.
It's also about dying a more meaningful death.
That's a powerful way to put it.
And it highlights how interconnected everything is.
It does.
How the way we live shapes the way we die.
It shapes it.
And how facing death can inspire us to live more fully.
Absolutely.
It's about embracing the whole cycle of life and death.
The whole cycle.
Not just clinging to one or fearing the other.
Not clinging or fearing.
But this idea of approaching death with awareness.
Yeah.
With intention.
Intention is
really possible.
De Ropp believes so.
He does.
He suggests that through the practices of creative psychology, we can cultivate a different relationship with death. As we become more aware.
More aware.
As we transcend the limitations of the ego.
Yeah.
He says we can glimpse a reality that extends beyond the physical body.
It's like our consciousness expanding to encompass a larger perspective.
A larger perspective.
A cosmic view that sees life and death
as
parts of a greater whole.
A greater whole.
Exactly.
And this is where de Ropp connects intentional dying to the concept of the clear light in Tibetan Buddhism.
Can you explain that concept for our listeners?
It's the idea that as we die, our individual consciousness merges with a larger, more universal consciousness. Not about personal survival after death, but about merging with something vaster, beyond the limitations of the ego.
So it's not an ending, but a transformation.
A transformation.
A return to the source from which we came.
A return to the source.
That's a beautiful
and
profound way to think about death.
It is profound.
And it's where de Ropp's vision of the master game becomes truly transcendent.
Transcendent?
It's not just a self-improvement project.
No.
It's a path that leads us to a more awakened life and more conscious
and meaningful death.
Meaningful death.
Wow.
It's powerful.
That's a powerful and thought-provoking idea.
It is thought-provoking.
But how do we even begin to grasp this?
How do we grasp it?
It sounds so abstract.
It does.
And far removed from everyday life.
It seems that way.
It does.
But de Ropp offers practical tools and techniques
to
help us cultivate this awareness. To gradually shift our perspective. It's a lifelong journey.
Right.
But he emphasizes that the journey itself is the reward.
I love that.
Me too.
It's not about reaching some distant goal, but about bringing that quality of awareness
to each step along the way.
And this brings us back to those concrete steps you can take right now to start playing the master game.
We've talked about quieting the noise machine and understanding our different selves. But there's so much more to explore.
Oh, there is.
Like those centers we talked about earlier.
Yes.
We've only scratched the surface of how to educate them.
Yeah.
And bring them into harmony.
Bring them into harmony.
There's a whole world of practices and techniques.
There is.
De Ropp outlines in the book.
It's interesting how de Ropp connects this idea of community to the work of Carl Menninger, a renowned psychoanalyst. Specifically, he draws on Menninger's concept of vital balance.
I'm not familiar with Menninger's work.
Oh, okay.
What's vital balance all about?
It's a holistic view of mental health. Seeing the psyche not as separate from the body, but intertwined with every aspect of our being. So rather than labeling things as mental illness, Menninger talked about disruptions to this vital balance.
So it's less about diagnosing and more about understanding those points where our energy. Our emotional well-being gets thrown off.
It's thrown off, De Ropp takes this idea and suggests that these breakdowns, these disruptions of vital balance can be understood through the lens of creative psychology.
I see.
Think about the wrong workings of centers. The conflicts between essence and persona. The depletion of vital energy.
So those same challenges we face on the path to higher consciousness can actually lead to more serious issues.
They can.
If they're not addressed.
If we're not paying attention.
Like ignoring those warning signs.
Warning signs.
Our mind and body are giving us.
Exactly.
It's like those crucial points in an octave where the energy can go astray.
You can go astray.
If we're not aware, if we don't have the right tools. Those disruptions can cascade.
They can cascade.
And affect our whole system.
The whole system.
It's a bit unnerving.
It is a little bit.
But also empowering.
Empowering, yes.
If we can understand these patterns.
Understand the patterns.
We have a better chance of navigating them. Before they become bigger problems.
Before they become bigger problems.
It's the idea.
That's the hope.
De Ropp even suggests that traces of almost every disorder psychiatrists describe can be found within all of us.
Interesting.
Not that we're all mentally ill.
Right.
But that these tendencies, these potential imbalances, are part of the human condition.
Part of the human condition.
So it's less about fixing something that's broken.
Not about fixing.
And more about understanding our own tendencies.
Yes.
And learning how to work with them.
Working with them.
This is where the role of a teacher.
Yes.
A mentor can be so helpful.
It would be so helpful.
Someone who can spot those blind spots.
The blind spots.
Those patterns we can't see in ourselves.
We can't see them.
And offer guidance. Speaking of teachers.
Yes.
De Ropp mentions different styles of teaching.
He does.
How do we know who's right for us on this path?
That's a great question.
It is a big question.
He describes those in the tough love tradition.
Okay.
Who might say, if you're not already healthy and successful, this path is not for you.
Yeah.
It's a little harsh.
That sounds a bit harsh.
Yeah.
And exclusive.
Exclusive, yeah.
Not very welcoming.
Not very welcoming.
It can be.
But he also acknowledges that other teachers are more willing to take on students where they're at, so to speak.
Right.
To experiment and meet people with compassion wherever they are on their journey.
So it's about finding the right fit.
Finding the right fit.
Kind of like choosing a therapist or a coach. Somebody who resonates with your personality and your needs.
And your needs.
That's a great analogy.
It is a good analogy.
And he emphasizes that even a genuine teacher has limitations.
Limitations.
That they might not be right for everyone. It all comes back to that self-awareness, that critical thinking we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
We need to trust ourselves to find the right support, the right guidance.
For
our unique path.
Our unique path. And it's about recognizing that this inner work is a lifelong process.
Okay.
It's not a quick fix.
Right.
It's a transformation.
Right.
And it will have its ups and downs.
Speaking of the different stages of life.
Yeah.
De Ropp talks about those 4 stages.
4 stages.
And how the last one, that second life, after 50, should ideally be about this making of the soul.
The making of the soul.
It's a beautiful concept.
It is a beautiful concept.
The idea that as we move beyond the demands of career and family, we can dedicate ourselves more fully to this inner work.
To the inner work.
But for many.
That
stage of life comes with anxieties about aging.
It does.
Health issues. Maybe a fading sense of purpose.
A loss of purpose.
Not exactly fertile ground for spiritual growth.
No, not always.
That's true.
But De Ropp seemed to suggest that by engaging in this master game, by cultivating awareness and inner strength, we can approach that stage of life with a different perspective.
So not as a decline.
Not as a decline.
But as a deepening.
A deepening.
A time for refining our being.
Refining our being.
And expressing our wisdom.
Expressing wisdom.
Yes. And as an opportunity.
An opportunity.
To share what we've learned.
Yes.
To mentor others.
You mentor others.
To contribute to the evolution of consciousness.
Evolution of consciousness.
In a way that wasn't possible when we were younger.
When we were younger.
So not withdrawing from the world.
Not withdrawing.
But bringing the fruits of that inner work.
The fruit.
Back into the world. To benefit others.
Back into the world. It brings us back to the importance of that creative community.
Right.
De Ropp envisions those communities as places where people of all ages can support each other, share wisdom, and help this work of transformation ripple outwards.
It's almost like weaving a tapestry of shared experience.
Yeah, tapestries.
Where everyone's unique thread contributes to a larger, beautiful whole.
Or beautiful whole.
A tapestry.
Yeah, a beautiful tapestry.
It feels like we're starting to see the real scope of what De Ropp calls creative psychology. It's not just about self-improvement. It's about this profound transformation that touches every aspect of our lives.
It does.
Even how we approach death.
And what strikes me is De Ropp's honesty.
Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from the challenges, the effort required.
He's not promising instant enlightenment or a quick fix.
No, he's not.
That's refreshing.
Yeah, it is.
So many self-help gurus offer these easy solutions.
Right.
But De Ropp is upfront about the fact that this path, this master game,
requires dedication.
It does.
And a willingness to confront ourselves. And he makes it clear that this path isn't for everyone.
It's not for everyone.
Some people might find fulfillment in other games, other ways of living a meaningful life.
There are many paths.
Right. There's no judgment, no one right way to do things.
It's about finding your own way.
It's about each of us finding our own unique path.
Your unique path.
Our own way of waking up to what's possible.
And I think that's what makes de Ropp's work so enduring.
Yeah.
He's not offering dogma.
Right.
He's offering tools. And framework.
Yes, frameworks.
To understand ourselves and the world around us.
He even encourages skepticism.
He does.
And critical thinking.
Critical thinking is key.
He wants us to question everything.
Question everything.
Even his own ideas.
Even his own ideas.
That's the mark of a true teacher.
Not someone who wants followers.
Right.
But someone who wants us to become our own guides.
Yes.
Our own masters.
Our own masters.
So in a way, the master game is about transcending the need for a master.
That's a great way to put it.
It's about cultivating that inner authority.
Inner authority.
That wisdom that comes from direct experience and the inner work.
Like inner work.
It's about trusting our own intuition and discernment.
Which brings us back to those practical steps de Ropp outlines.
Yeah.
He's not just philosophizing.
Right.
He offers concrete techniques.
Yeah.
For cultivating awareness, managing our energy, working with our emotions. And he emphasizes that these techniques need to be adapted to each individual's type.
Okay.
Their essence.
Their essence.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
So it's about taking these ideas, these frameworks, and experimenting. Finding what works for us.
Exactly.
What resonates with our own being.
That's where the real excitement lies.
Yeah.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
Self-discovery.
A process of continual refinement.
Refinement.
And growth.
And even though de Ropp wrote this book decades ago, it feels incredibly relevant today.
It does.
Maybe even more so.
Even more so.
Of all the distractions.
And distractions, the pressures.
The modern life.
It's so easy to get lost.
De Ropp's work offers a way out.
A way out.
A path back to ourselves.
Back to ourselves.
To that deeper awareness.
That deeper awareness.
It's always available.
It's always there.
If we know how to access it.
If we know how to access it.
And it's not just about personal transformation.
It's not just personal.
He connects this inner work.
Right.
To the evolution of consciousness as a whole.
The evolution of consciousness.
To the possibility of creating a more just. Compassionate
awakened world.
An awakened world.
So it's not just about winning the master game for ourselves.
No. It's about playing it in a way that benefits everyone.
Yeah.
That contributes to the greater good.
That's the ultimate aim.
That's a powerful vision.
It is a powerful vision.
And I think it's one worth striving for.
It is.
Even if we never fully achieve it.
The journey itself is the reward.
I love that.
As de Ropp reminds us.
Yeah.
It's not the destination. It's the quality of the attention we bring to each step along the way.
Well said.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
We have.
Into the master game.
Master game.
It's been a fascinating.
So fascinating.
And thought-provoking journey.
It really has.
Thank you for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time.
Until next time.
Keep diving.